My name is Commissioner Frank Avila, and I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And the name of our show is MWRD, Underground and Unnoticed. And we have as our guest Richard Lanyon, General Superintendent of the MWRD. Richard Lanyon is one of the national leading expert in treating wastewater. Mr. Lanyon holds a bachelor and master's of civil engineering degree from the University of Illinois, Urbana, Champaign. He has been involved in a variety of technical activities for American Society of Civil Engineering, the Water Environmental Federation, and the National Association of Clean Water Agency. Thank you, Dick, for being on our show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Frank. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, Mr. Lanyon, what does MWRD stand for, and what is it?
Well, MWRD is our acronym. It's the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And this is an agency that's established by state law. We're a regional agency within the limits of Cook County. We were formed in 1889 by a referendum of the populace after the General Assembly created the Enabling Act. And today we provide wastewater collection and treatment services for 5 million people in the city of Chicago and 125 suburban municipalities.
So wastewater, you know, the name you mentioned, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. You know, when one says that name, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, you all think of the water filtration plant as drinking water. And because just of the word water reclamation district, they only hear water. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned, it's wastewater.
Right. Well, the key word is reclamation. So after people use potable water in their homes and industry uses it in their businesses, yes, and it goes down the sewer, it comes to us.
Yes.
And then we have to treat that sewage, reclaim it.
Yes.
And after it's reclaimed, it's discharged to the local waterway.
And so that's what you flush down your toilet. That's what the district treats.
What goes down the toilet, what goes down the sink drain.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What goes down the floor drain.
Now, what do you mean underground?
Well, most of our facilities are underground. Sewers, deep tunnels, pumping stations, treatment plants. You can see the treatment plants and the pumping stations above ground, but what you don't see is mostly underground. All the tanks and the piping that makes these pumping stations and treatment plants work.
Yes, like a home, any place in Cook County, when they flush the toilet or wash their dishes, they have a line going outside from their house connecting into a local sewer. It could be a combined sewer or a sanitary sewer, and that sanitary sewer will, if it's in a municipality, will go in that sewer line into an interceptor, which is, we own all the interceptors throughout Cook County.
That's correct. That's correct. We don't own the sewers that are in the streets in front of most of the homes and businesses. Yes. Those are the local collection system, yes, and that's owned by the local municipality, such as the city of Chicago or Evanston or Palos, yeah, Park or whatever. But we have a network of over 555 miles of large sewers. We call them intercepting sewers because they intercept the sewage from these municipalities and convey it to our treatment plants.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, you know, the name of the show is Underground, and then we have and Unnoticed. Now, what do you mean by unnoticed?
Well, by unnoticed, I mean that with most of our infrastructure underground, and with only a few facilities above, yes, ground, the public doesn't really know what the Water Reclamation District does. People flush their toilet, they pull the plug on their drain, let
Yeah.
the water go, and they don't think about it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
That's exactly
They
it.
go out and do their things, and they don't know what goes on to treat wastewater.
That's correct. But the Clean Water Act requires us to clean up wastewater and discharge it so that our nation's waters are whole.
Yes.
To restore the biological, chemical, and physical water to its natural state.
And why did our government pass the Clean Water Act?
Well, the Clean Water Act dates back to the 60s when there was concern about water pollution. There were headlines about Lake Erie dying, the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, and our own little Grand Calumet River in the south side of Chicago and in Indiana were covered with oil, and they would occasionally burn. And so there was a national outcry, and Congress first established a law in the late 60s which required the states to implement water quality standards. And then in 1972 they adopted a major amendment to that law which provided technology standards for treating wastewater and also provided money to fund the construction of sewage treatment plants and sewers and to help clean up our waters. Because back in those years, the big problem was what we call point sources of pollution. That is, industries discharging to rivers or cities discharging their sewage to rivers.
And point solution that you could identify that location that's polluting our waterways. Now,
that's correct. A point source is a pipe that comes out of the stream bank or a river wall, as opposed to something where you can't identify where the flow gets into the river.
Now, if the MWRD did not exist, or if it's performed poorly, what would be the impact on the average citizen here in Cook County?
Well, first of all, if we didn't exist, we'd have a lot more sewage treatment plants in Cook County than we do. The Water Reclamation District owns and operates 7 treatment plants.
Yes.
We're a regional agency, so we bring the sewage to centralized points for treatment. Now, in some other communities, they have many, many treatment plants. Each town might have its own treatment plant. Out in DuPage County, we've got about a dozen sewage treatment plants. So that's why I think as a regional agency, we perform a valuable service because we don't have a lot of treatment plants scattered around. So that's one good reason why the Water Reclamation District is there. Also, because of our size, larger treatment plants can operate more economically than several small treatment plants. So you get economies of scale by treating large quantities of wastewater or sewage at one location.
And when we treat wastewater at the district, it goes through different phases of being treated. And then at the end, what comes out at the end?
Well, that's a product. We have reclaimed water.
Reclaimed water.
Reclaimed water. We call it treated effluent, if you will. Yes. But it's reclaimed water.
And that treated effluent is liquid. It's liquid. Yes. It's liquid. And that's what we call effluent.
Right.
Yes.
Let me go back to a point you made earlier about what if we perform poorly.
Yes.
Under the Clean Water Act, states must issue permits to dischargers to our nation's rivers. So each one of our treatment plants has a permit. It's called an NPDES permit, and that stands for National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
And the U.S. EPA sets that standard.
This program was set up back in the 70s.
Yes.
And the EPA establishes criteria for water quality. The states have to implement standards to meet quality. So all of our rivers in Cook County must meet certain standards set by the state. And anybody who discharges to those rivers, such as the MWRD,
Yeah, but
must have a permit.
But do we discharge the rivers, or a combination that we own our channel that we discharge,
Well,
and in some cases we discharge the streams?
Well, a little bit of each. We have 7 plants. 4 of them discharge to man-made canals.
Man-made, okay.
The other 3 discharge to streams that are in the suburbs. The Stickney plant out in Stickney, Illinois, is one of the world's largest treatment plants. It discharges to the Sanitary and Ship Canal. The North Side Water Reclamation plant is in Skokie. That discharges to the North Shore Channel, another man-made canal. The Calumet Water Reclamation plant is in the far south side of the city of Chicago on 130th Street. That discharges to the Little Calumet River, which was at one time a natural river, but now it's been widened and deepened, and it is part of a federal navigable waterway project. So that's really a man-made canal.
Okay.
And then we have a small plant out in Lamont, which discharges also to the Sanitary and Ship Canal. But 3 other plants of ours are in the northwest suburbs, and they discharge to streams that haven't been made into canals.
Yes.
Although because of urban development, they're not really Rocky Mountain streams, you know. That's the Egan Water Reclamation Plant in Schaumburg, the Curie Water Reclamation Plant in Des Plaines, and the Hanover Park Water Reclamation Plant in Hanover Park.
Now, you mentioned about one of the 3 largest plants in North America. You mentioned the North Side plant, which discharge into our channel, the North Shore Channel, and the Stickney, which discharge into the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal, and there's a joint Stickney plant up there now.
That's right.
And Stickney is considered one of the largest plant in the world. It could treat up to 1.2 billion gallons of wastewater, or maybe it could go up to 1.4 billion gallons of wastewater a day. And that discharge into our channel. And then we have the Calumet that discharge into the Cal-Sag channel. Now, all of those, the effluent that's discharged into those channels, they meet in one point, right up in the southwest near Lockport?
That's correct, Frank. They actually meet out near Lamont, flow down through the Sanitary and Ship Canal, and discharge into the Des Plaines River in Lockport.
Yes. So what we do here in the Cook County area, how we treat wastewater, will have an environmental effect on the aquatic life being discharged into the Des Plaines River, into the Illinois River, into the Mississippi, into the Gulf of Mexico.
That's correct.
And that's why our agency has to treat our wastewater meeting the standards that you just mentioned.
That's correct.
So it doesn't have an environmental effect traveling all the ways down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Right, right. Well, you know, it's we discharge to these canals and rivers, and a flowing stream has an ability to assimilate the waste, yeah. And so they purify themselves over time and distance. Now, this was not always the case for Chicago, because the reason that the Water Reclamation District was formed in 1889 was because the drainage from Chicago naturally flowed into Lake Michigan. And as the city was growing, using Lake Michigan as a water supply, the sewage was polluting the water supply. That's not a good thing.
Yes.
So our original job was to build a canal to reverse the flow of the Chicago River. And we did that in a period of about 8 years. Construction started in 1892 and ended in 1900, and that's when the Chicago River was permanently reversed by this large canal, 28 miles in length, which breached a very subtle subcontinental divide between the Lake Michigan and Great Lakes watershed and the Illinois River and Mississippi River watershed.
Now, by doing all of this work that we're doing at the agency, how much does it cost the citizens or the residents of Cook County?
Well, as I indicated before, our size is of advantage here. homeowner with a market value home of about $100,000 pays about $130 per year for their sewer service charge to the water reclamation district. Now, a homeowner will also notice on their water bill from their municipality that there's a sewer charge. That goes to maintain that local collection system that's out in the street in front of their house. And the line item on the real estate tax bill for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District is for our treatment of wastewater at all of our plants.
Now the MWRD, they have departments to carry out all of this responsibility. Could you name the departments at the
sure.
district that would carry out the service that we provide residents of Cook County?
Yes, we have a total of about 2,100 employees, and they're divided up into 9 different departments. The biggest department is the Maintenance and Operations Department, and that's responsible for maintaining all of our infrastructure and operating all of our treatment plants and pumping stations. And the next largest department is the Research and Development Department. They operate our laboratories that analyze samples for physical, chemical, and biological parameters. They have what we call our pre-treatment program, which controls the wastewater from industry and business so that that doesn't upset our treatment plants. And they have a research staff which looks into new issues of new contaminants and treatment technologies. Our engineering department designs and constructs all new facilities and does work for major rehabilitation of our existing facilities. Some of our facilities are 70, 80 years old, and we are beginning to have to replace some of these. And then we have 6 other departments that perform important support services, administration, human resources, information technology, can't get along without computers these days, personnel, purchasing, and of course law.
Yes. And this requires a budget about what is the budget for doing all of this?
Our budget is in excess of $1 billion. $1
billion.
Most of that is for capital works program.
Yes.
About $400 million is for corporate operation and maintenance expenses.
Now, what challenge? You mentioned research. Why is it so important that we do research at the district?
Well, we have a number of topics of concern, one of which is there's new treatment methods, and we have to do research on these methods to see if they are adaptable to our system and would be a good use for us. There are issues with emerging contaminants, new pollutants that are found. We don't know how to treat them yet. The Environmental Protection Agency hasn't come up with regulatory programs to control them yet. These are things like endocrine disruptors, industrial cleaning compounds, personal care products, and unused medications. So research is necessary to determine how to deal with these problems. And we also want to do research on how to use our other product, biosolids, and use that in a beneficial way rather than to use it to just consider it as a waste.
And biosolids, when we treat wastewater at the end, we mention effluents, which is discharged into our channels, which is liquid, water, treated wastewater.
Mm-hmm.
That we call effluents. Now, biosolids is similar to fertilizer, right? This is what biosolid is.
Well, biosolids is more a soil-like product. Now, what happens in the treatment process is we separate the solids from the water. We have basically a biological process where microbial communities are used to break down the waste. So the reclaimed water goes out to the local stream. The solid material
and channels.
And the solid material we initially call sludge because it settles on the bottom of tanks, and it's kind of a black oozy thing. But then we process it. We digest it. Pathogens are killed off, and the water is reduced, and the volatiles are driven off. And then eventually, with drying, it becomes a soil-like product, just like the earth in your backyard. And this can be beneficially reused. We use it on farmland for a soil amendment and fertilizer, as you call it. We use it on golf courses and parks to use as an annual top dressing rather than having to use fertilizer. And so it's a very beneficial product.
Yes, so we could say that the name is water reclamation. So we recycle our products.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and that's why biosolids is very important. What we're doing, because when we provide that to when we give it to a farmer, that's organic farming, which helps the environment. They don't have to use pesticides or other type of fertilizer that may contribute against the environment, where our biosolids will not.
Well, that's correct. The biosolids are rich in nutrients, so they can replace the use of a synthetic fertilizer, a chemical fertilizer. And of course, by putting biosolids back on the land, we're just recycling, because that's where these this came from. And originally, when we, as humans, we buy food and we digest it, and it becomes waste, goes through the sewage treatment process, and then it goes back on the land where the food came from. And the same thing with the water. Our water in Chicago comes from Lake Michigan.
Yes.
We treat it, and we discharge it to the river or the canals, and then it goes down the Illinois and Mississippi rivers, and eventually the water evaporates and falls back on top of Lake Michigan. Yeah. So we recycle both of our products.
And they say by global, everyone's talking about global warming, and they say how can on the CO2s, they're trying to eliminate the CO2 in the atmosphere, and they say by organic farming, that's one way of catching the CO2s when they grow the plants, because the plant needs that CO2 by organic farming. So by us recycling that biosolids and giving it to farmers, or maybe on a golf course or football field, the plants that are being grown using our biosolids is helping global warming.
Yes, and we're helping climate change, or global warming as you call it, in other ways too, because the carbon dioxide, which is one of the greenhouse gases, we don't generate. That's just in the atmosphere, but we do generate methane in our digesters when we digest the sludge we talked about. However, we reuse most of that methane. We use it for in-plant heating. We use it to heat the sludge when it goes into the digester, because you need to have it at an optimum temperature for effective digestion. And we also use it for electrical generation for plant electricity.
So at the district, we just started on energy policy also.
Yes.
And so I think the district, I know that the district is a forerunner of trying to solve environmental problems.
Well, we are, and when you talk about energy, we're one of the biggest users of electricity, because we have to pump, and we have to, part of the treatment process is to blow air through the sewage to provide oxygen for the digestion. So we're a big user of electricity, and we have been very mindful of this over the years, and have consistently pursued conservation measures to reduce and control our use of electricity.
Now, Dick, what challenge does the MWRD faces?
Well, there's several challenges. I mentioned one earlier in talking about the new contaminants. We have to learn how to deal with these and deal with them effectively to keep our nation's waters clean. Another challenge is to control our costs, and we do this by energy conservation and also by effective management techniques at our plants and facilities. And another challenge we have is to get our message out to the public more, because we're one of the most economical public services that people have in Cook County. We're also a very effective protector of the environment through our reclamation plants, and also the air permits that control our air emissions, and the permits that control our biosolids uses. And you know, a lot of people don't know about this, Frank, so we need to do a better job of getting our message out.
And you know, you have started again having tours at the plants. I think it starts at 7th grade on up. They could come in and visit our plants, and especially a good program for the grade school, high schools, and even college students, and adults also. I mean, it's a good plan for everyone.
That's right. We, of course, our employees are very prideful of what they do, and they love to show the public what a wonderful service we provide in our facilities. And so it's a good thing for employee morale, but it's also important for the public to be able to come in and see our treatment plants, learn about the sewage treatment process, learn about how we beneficially reuse biosolids, how we conserve energy, how we control pollutants from industry. And you know, we're also a new function we haven't talked about is our stormwater management program.
Well, next question. That was going to be the next question.
And that's when I talk about the challenges of a public education, is we have to get the message out about effective stormwater management and how individual citizens and how the municipalities can help implement these effective stormwater management strategies.
And there's a difference between stormwater management and flood control.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. And what is the difference?
Well, flood control is the more traditional concern about flood damages, high water during periods of flood after a big rainstorm, and controlling that water and reducing the damages. But stormwater falls on us many times during the year, and water is a precious resource. So the larger picture here is to control this stormwater as a vital resource, and to try to utilize it, try to keep it where it falls near the earth. And to the extent we can do it in the Chicago area, we'll try to infiltrate more rainwater so that there's local water supplies in our groundwater aquifers, and we'll be able to use this water for irrigation during dry weather periods, and not just get it away as fast as we can.
And so that's stormwater management.
Yes.
Yes. And I think you're right. A lot of municipalities are going to look towards us to try and solve flood control through stormwater management.
Right. Another thing we're looking at is the use of wetlands.
Wetlands?
Chicago, before